wonder, brilliance and grace. Welcome joy, satisfaction, pleasure and strength. Welcome essence, beauty, presence, time, spirit, form, and space. Welcome excellence in every blessing, sacred and praise. What I seek, I have. What I want to know, I understand. All I wish I could, I can. Who I want to be, I am. What I seek, I have. What I want to know, I understand. All I wish I could, I can. Who I want to be, I am. Ooh, 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 welcome magic and wonder, brilliance and grace. Welcome joy, satisfaction, pleasure and strength. Welcome essence, beauty, presence, time, spirit, form, and space. Welcome excellence in every blessing, sacred and praise. What I seek, I have. What I want to know, I understand. All I wish I could, I can. What I want to be, I am. What I seek, I have. What I want to know, I understand. All I wish I could, I can. Who I want to be, I am. I am the seed, I am the tree. I am the flower, I am the bee. I am fire and I am wind. I accept love and also I give. I am loud and I am mighty. I am silent and I tread lightly. I am brave and monumental. I am modest, I am gentle. I am student and I teach. I am the sand and I am the heat. I am ease and I am power. I am bridge and I am power. I am peace and I am wild. I am mother, I am child. I am many, I am few. I am God and God is you. I seek, I have. What I want to know, I understand. All I wish I could, I can. Who I want to be, I am. What I seek, I have. What I want to know, I understand. All I wish I could, I can. Who I want to be, I am.
Hello, 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 everyone. Let me know if you hear me. Let me know if you can hear me in the comments. If you can let me know if you can hear me, that would be great. I am Crystal Tennille Irby, one of the co-hosts of Dim Black Mamas podcast, and this is our Black Maternal Health Week YouTube/Facebook live series. I'm really, really excited about this. This is the first time that we've done something like this, and our series will be, that is my sister. I am in her house, and she is watching me live on Facebook while she's sitting right next to me. But I appreciate her hospitality. We just got off an RV trip, and we had to return the RV to Columbia, so we stayed the night at her house. She cooked a beautiful breakfast. She cares nothing about my health. She cooked not one, but 2 types of sausage, y'all. 2 types of sausage. That's how you know you're in the real South. She cooked patties and links, right? Grits and pancakes. Mm-hmm. So shout out.
Mm-hmm. You will be fed today.
I will be fed today and full. You hear me? So that was my sister. That was a little feedback from my sister. But I'm excited about this. We haven't done anything like this. And this year's theme is Black Mamas Matter, reclaiming our resilience, power, and liberation. And the themes for our lives are liberation, creativity, and healing. And so today we'll be talking with one of the hosts of Birth Stories in Color podcast. And her co-host was supposed to join us, but she's a doula and she got caught into a birth.
Yes.
So she was unable to join us. So today we'll be talking about liberation and Black maternal health. And the reason that we wanted to root this series in healing, creativity, and liberation is because we all know the statistics. I think we can all recite the statistics off the top of our head. So I think that Black Mama Matters Alliance, who we are kindred partners with, has done an excellent job of raising awareness about the Black maternal health rate. And so now I think it's time for us to not just sit in those numbers, but to really begin to talk about how we begin to turn the tide. And the way that we begin to turn the tide is to amplify and uplift Black birth workers to, in order to show Black mamas how to heal and how to root their births in liberation and creativity. So that's what this series is all about. And I'm so excited to have Laurel join us to talk about that. Before we get started, we are going to start off by picking a card from our Black Mama Magic card deck. I'd like to do that just to set the tone, give us some grounding, give us some intention. And while I'm doing this, in the comments, you all let me know who's watching and where you're watching from. If you have questions, please feel free to drop those in the comments as well, and we can put them up on the screen. I would love for you to engage. I worked really hard on this nice little background, little banner. So I would love some engagement because of that. And then I'm going to read Laurel's bio because I think it's important I think it's a way of giving Black women their roses. So I love to do that. So let's pick a card right quick and then we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see from the Black Mama Magic card deck. Here we go. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. Okay. Oh, okay. Here we go. This is card number 11. Magic is real. You are proof. Dear Mama, you are living proof that magic is real. Your story is a fantastical tale of imagined dreams come to fruition. Your power to heal, manifest, and create can only be explained as magical. You, majestic, beautiful, healed, healing, creative you, are magic personified. Sprinkle a little of your dust on the world today. I think this is the perfect card for what? This is so perfect. Right? The cards always show up. The cards always show up no matter what. So I had a little bit of trouble reading because my sunglasses are in my glasses case because I just came off vacation. So if I'm squinting a little bit, y'all just be patient with me. So I'm going to read Laurel's bio and then talk a little bit about podcasting color. And then we're going to get started with some questions. Let's see what we got here. Hi, Destiny. Destiny from Ohio. Destiny, I was just in Ohio. We went to Cleveland for our spring vacation on our RV trip. We stopped in Niagara Falls and then we came down to Cleveland. We went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yesterday and also to a Cavs game. So I was just in Cleveland. So welcome. Thank you so much for watching. And you all can also share this live on your Facebook page. Just hit the share button and you can share it on your Facebook page as well.
Got it.
So let me get your bio up here. Okay. So Laurel is a reproductive justice and family advocate with a master's in special education from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Laurel began her journey of supporting families as a special education teacher, family advocate, specifically serving children diagnosed on the autism spectrum. Isn't it Autism Awareness Month as well?
Yes.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. The birth of her first child led her to begin her work as a doula. Laurel provides families with information and tools to help them feel empowered by their own birthing experiences, as well as holding space as an ally to birth inclusivity through a reproductive justice lens. The core value of uplifting autonomy is the root of her practice. She currently supports families in Columbus, Ohio as a birth/postpartum doula and co-host of the podcast Birth Stories in Color. She and her co-host Danielle were led to create a platform honoring the art of storytelling and the voice of families of color. Birth Stories in Color is a podcast for Black, Indigenous, Asian, Latino, and multicultural individuals to share their birthing experiences, a space that specifically celebrates, mourns with, and supports them and their transformation through birth. Birth Stories in Color also emphasizes the role of storytelling as a way to equip future parents. Listening to real birth stories is one way to discover the unexpected and the expected and unexpected parts of the journey. They realize that there are birth stories not being heard. Their hope is that all who share and listen find their platform to be a community near and afar and an invaluable resource for navigating their own journey. So welcome to the Black Woman Magic Room, also known as our YouTube channel.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So my first question for you is, why did you choose podcasting as a way to tell the stories of birth people in color? There are many avenues that you could have chosen, blogging, vlogging. So why did you choose podcasting?
Yeah. So, this platform came about just Danny and I attending a Doulas of Color training together. And in that training, we found that the trainer had a really hard time staying on track because so many people wanted to share their experience. Like as soon as she would bring up a topic, somebody would say, well, that happened to me, or that happened to someone I know. So there was this constant outpouring of sharing. And during a break, Danny and I were talking and we were like, we need a space. And at that time, it was like 4 years ago, I think podcasting was really starting to come about as a way to share lots of things, stories, your knowledge about things. And it was just, I think, something that we knew would be easily accessible to everyone. We didn't know much about podcasting, but we both just at the same time were like, we should start a podcast. And then we went on YouTube and Google on how to start a podcast because
so 4 years ago was what? It's 2020. So that's like 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, 4 years ago, podcasting was not what it was today. If you were Googling podcasts 4 years ago, I always joke, you had to go to the second and third and fourth page of Google.
Yes.
To get the information that you wanted. Because you definitely wasn't finding out how to podcast on the first page. And now there are all these communities that you can join, how to, like all of this stuff. So I applaud people who not only started, more than 4 or 5 years ago, but who have continued.
Yeah.
Because it's a very, if you're serious about it and you want to really be dedicated to the community that your podcast is talking about, it's work.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I applaud people who have stuck it out, especially if you started over, over 5 years ago.
Right.
So what has surprised you when it comes to telling these stories of Black maternal health through your podcast? What's the things that have surprised you?
One of the things is just the willingness of people to share. I mean, the first couple episodes were friends of ours and then ourselves actually sharing. And then after those aired, we actually started getting submissions. We were like, oh, wait, like people actually want to do this. And I think we still get that joy when we see someone who's like, I want to share my story, if not for myself, for other people. So there's always just that just always feels good, right? That like people are willing to be vulnerable in that way, to allow others to engage and connect with them in that way. So yeah, we're coming up on our 100th episode at the end of this month, and we're like, what?
Congratulations.
Thank you. We were like, how did we get here? But yeah, just the willingness, and then also where people are connecting from. Like, we thought this was going to be, maybe we'll have a couple people where we live because we know where we are, but we have people all over who tune in and find connections with the stories that are shared. So, yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is because I think that I'm not surprised that so many people wanted to tell their stories, because I think all people have been looking for is an avenue. Your podcast provides that. And our podcast is really about us, the host. And I think your podcast is a little different because it's about the birth person, but more than anything, it's about the story and you all documenting these experiences, which I think is so, so important, because you can feel it's weird because everybody's gone through birth, right? Like you wouldn't be here if you hadn't gone through birth. It's so strange because you can feel alone during pregnancy, even though it's something that everybody has seen, everybody goes through. You can feel like how you're flowing through it, like you're the only one, experiencing those things. And so I think it's so important for us to share our stories for that reason alone, to let people know that they're not alone.
Right.
And that's how you begin to build community, and community is how you begin to get information out and get knowledge out, and knowledge is how you begin to shift the culture. So I'm not surprised that more people wanted an avenue to speak about it, to tell someone. So that you feel like you're not alone, and that you're not, what you're experiencing is not a part of your imagination. So, so the power of storytelling is one of the things that you all highlight in your podcast. So why do you think it's important to document those stories of birth people of color?
So even though Danny is out of birth, she gave me notes. She gave me notes. So I'm gonna start off with Danny's notes, and then add on to them.
Shout out to Danny. Shout out to Danny.
So she starts off with, saying, we are the culture keepers and storytellers, right? And our cultures are deeply rooted in storytelling.
Yes.
And it is in our dialects, hand gestures, and facial expressions that we uniquely keep the culture and preserve history. So each time a story is shared, the woman or birthing person declares, this happened. And then Danny and I co-sign by uploading it with the click of a button, which states, and it is so. And so... Come through, Danny. Come through, Danny.
Come all the way through, Danny. Come all the way through. And just so you know, Danny, that's going to be going up on Dim Black Mama's social media as a quote. You will get credit. I will tag you in the post, but that will definitely be a quote. That's so powerful. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we knew when we started this that we wanted something that would be lasting forever. We definitely know, we felt like not only as birth workers, when people aren't able to share their experience, like it lives and dies with you. So no one knows. No one knows the intricacies of what happened. No one knows the intricacies of how that affects the community as a whole, whether that be the joyous parts or the not joyous parts, but definitely the joyous parts. Like no matter in all the stories that we've had, there is joy somewhere. And we just wanted to make sure that there, like you said, there was a way to preserve that so that wherever it's needed, whenever it's needed, people will have access to it. And specifically, our community will have access to it.
Yeah. I love that she said that by uploading it, you all confirm that this indeed happened. And to me, that's like, that means that your podcast is the ashe, the amen. Like,
exactly.
So like this really happened. And that's what makes it a creative ritual to me. Because creativity is about creativity and art. Thea Monnier, one of my co-hosts, we were having a conversation and she said to me, what is art but witness? Right. And so part of the creative ritual of art is witnessing someone else's story or experience without judgment, but using it as a tool to evolve. And that's the amen and the ashe of it, like confirming that it happened is now permission for us to look at this, to examine ourselves and to see like, how can we evolve from this? How can we elevate for this? So I think that's so beautiful. I think that's beautiful. Y'all need to put that on your you need to put that on your webpage. That's really, really beautiful. I really
thank
love that.
you. And I mean, it's so important to us. We, when we go through, of course, like our podcast, there's an interview style, right? Like we have questions as a guide, but we always tell our storytellers, like, this is your space to share in whatever capacity you need to and however you need to. We don't interrupt. We put ourselves on mute and we just let you share. So that is authentic to what happened to you. And that's it. There's no edits to that. It's yours all the way through.
Which is so beautiful. And the opposite of what happens on Them Black Mamas podcast. We do not put ourselves on mute. We interject and rabbit hole. But I think that's what makes your podcast a storytelling podcast.
Right.
Like it really, really, really is. I feel like it's like an audio series more. I think more so than it is interview style, but I feel like it's an audio series more so than the way in which I think about like traditional podcast.
Yeah.
So what role do you feel Black birth workers play in liberation?
Yeah, I love this question. I always see us as birth workers as the village coming to support you, right? Like we are the holders of the full community, the full village in that moment, supporting you, right? Making sure that your journey is your journey, and that you have whatever you need in that moment, in that time. It's all of us coming together to support you. We are the embodiment of the community in that moment for you. Thus allowing you to have whatever liberation looks like for you during your birth. That's how I see, let's calling on everyone, like let's surround this person right now. Since you cannot be here, whether in the physical form or spiritual form, we are holding that space for you in that way.
I love that. So that means that that birth workers are the gatherers of not just the techniques and the tools, but the gatherers of the energy
right
in the room. Like the energy that is present and the energy that is not, and the energy that is not present. I love that.
Right. Yeah.
This is good. I'm going to get a lot. Really good stuff. This is really good stuff. So when I read your bio, one of the things that you said that really stood out to me is your practice, your doula practice is rooted in uplifting body autonomy. So how can birth workers and medical professionals uplift body autonomy, and why is that important when supporting Black birth persons?
Listen to Black people.
It's real talk. Okay. Real talk. That seems so simple.
It
right?
Seems so
that
simple.
Seems really, really simple. But I've been in that birth room, and not only in the birth room, but at the doctor's appointments, where it is harder to penetrate than you would even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Which is absolutely fascinating to me. I mean, something as simple as, okay, so when I was giving birth, I'll just talk about my own birth story. When I was giving birth, with my first child, so I was in labor, and it got to a point where his heart rate was dropping. I was not dilating at all. So the doctor came in and talked to me about having a C-section, which I completely did not want to happen. But as things progressed, I changed my mind, and so I ended up having a C-section. But during that C-section, when I look back on it, one of the things that really bothered me was that no one was talking to me during the process. So all up until this point, the doctors were talking to me, the nurse was talking to me, asking for permission for this. How do you feel about this? Like, it was a real energy exchange. It felt like an exchange up until that point. Mm-hmm. And when I agreed to the C-section, it turned into a surgery, and was separate from my body. And so no one was saying, okay, we're going to do this right now. This is what's happening right now. Like, there was no conversation. And a simple little thing as telling me what you're doing to my body as you're doing it, because they were talking to each other. I mean, about like stuff not even related to the birth, like grocery shopping, like real talk. Mm-hmm. So they were talking to each other. So I know that there could have been a conversation being had with me. And something as simple as that during a C-section would have made me feel more a part of the birth, and would have made my body feel more a part of the birth.
Right.
But for me, that was the exact moment that my body separated from myself. Yeah. And ever since then, I've been working to reclaim it and heal that relationship. Mm-hmm. But that simple act of body autonomy, by telling someone what you're doing to their body, I think could have really changed the trajectory of my relationship with my body following that.
Right. And I think it requires two things to fully listen to someone. One, me to leave my ego and my views of whatever the situation is at the door. Mm-hmm. And then two, to fully see you. Right? Yeah. Like if we were switching places, how would I want to be seen in this moment? Yeah. Right. So no matter what, if I'm entering a birth space, no matter how many births I've been, as a person who has birth, this experience is not mine. I am there to be a bridge and to hold space for someone. So everything goes out the window, and I'm in tune to whatever that person needs, so that I can fully hear what they're saying. And I can fully see what they need, what type of support they need. I might have in my mind, they need to do X, Y, and Z, and let's do this body, but I might get there and that's not the case. So I have to be able to fully hear what they're saying to me. And we don't mince words. We don't mince words. So don't say you didn't hear what I said.
Like, excuse me, I thought I used the right words. I thought I was very clear.
We don't mince words.
Yeah.
It might not be what you heard in the textbook, but I said that didn't feel right, or that was a no, or that yes, I said what I said. So you have to be willing to fully listen to hear whatever you need to know how to support me.
I'm glad you said that part about ego, because I think that's important, not just for medical professionals, but also for birth workers, because we have our ideas And, you know, most people who are doing birth work really want to birth in ancestral, want their birth persons, the birth persons who they're supporting, to birth in ancestral tradition, right? And so sometimes when birth people choose to go out of that, our egos, you know, can come in, and so we have to be really, really careful to push that down, and see ourselves as witness and guide.
Exactly.
You know, so
exactly. And it's not easy. I mean, I've been in the middle of a birth and had to be like, wait, stop, check yourself. Why are you saying this? Is this what you think should be the outcome, or what this person actually wants?
Yeah. Especially if you're a birth worker like me who had some trauma from birth.
Right.
And so, like, saying, you know, my experience is not this person's experience. And leaving what happened to you, like, outside. I mean, it's information, it can inform, but I really had to do a lot of healing around that before I could really show up in the birth room without my ego and without like, no, you're not gonna do, you know, you're not gonna do this. You know, I really I really have to ground myself, as witness, as guide, and leave that out the door and really flow in my healing and be honest with myself and say what I'm able to take on in that room, you know.
I love that you say that, because I think that goes not only for birth workers and medical providers, but anybody who's entering that energy of birth, whether it's a family member, a friend, they have to be willing to do that work and understand what they're bringing into that room and how that's going to affect that space.
Because you do have to ask yourself, again, most of us who do birth work, like, we want to birth in ancestral tradition, which means we want people to have a vaginal birth. Like, we want people to birth in that way. And so you really have to ask yourself, anything is possible in a birth room. Anything is possible in a birth room. And are you prepared for however your birth person chooses, whatever your birth person chooses, whatever decision that they make? And that was a hard conversation to have with myself, because I was like, I don't want no C-sections. I don't want no epidurals. I don't want any of those things. And what really shifted that for me was when I discovered that Black women actually created C-sections. African Black women were the people who did that practice, and they taught it to European doctors. But what the European doctors couldn't figure out is why so many people were dying when they did it, but when the African women did it in their country, the people weren't dying. And what my co-host and I were talking about was probably because there was ritual. There was ritual included in that process. It just wasn't surgery for them. They still kept ritual. They still saw it as a birth. And so what that helped me see is, no matter how a person gives birth, ritual is still possible in the process.
Oh, I love that.
You know, Nikisha, she had a closing of the bones ceremony ritual after her last child. She had 3 children before that, never had a closing of the bones ceremony. And Laurel, when she talked about that closing of the bones ceremony, it was like, Thea and I were like, can somebody come close?
Is it too late for me to get my bones closed?
It's too late for me to get my bones.
Can I do this today?
Can I close my bones? I made it 24. Can I do my You know, and so, I say that to say, you know, if you had a C-section, or however you've given birth, ritual is still accessible. You know, that would have done so much for me after my C-section if if someone would have come and wrapped my body and help, return organs to their, to help them fall in line. Because when you're pregnant, all your organs get pushed up and pushed back, and so it takes them a minute, to settle back into your body. So ritual is so important no matter how a person gives birth. And that helped me realize, like, well, no matter what happens in this birth room, there is still healing to be done afterwards.
Yes.
You can still have ritual, no matter what. So yeah.
Send me I need to get my postpartum is forever. So
just said we need to have a joint. Just line everybody up.
Sign me up.
Oh, it's real. Whenever I mention that to someone, they're like, closing of the bone.
Can I?
Yeah, because your hips separate and everything doesn't just, I don't know if that's why yours are wide. I don't know. I can't attest to that. That could be genetics as well. But that's not the widening. We're talking about the bones. We're not talking about you have disrupted the lives. Get back into focus. I cannot attest to that. Disclaimer. I'm not saying that's why people's hips are wide.
Right.
Disclaimer. But what I am saying is, you're in order to dilate, your hip spread, and so your body really is open, And if you think about that, like after you give birth, no one took the time to sort of bring your body back together and close your body. And you think about that emotionally, you think about that mentally, and how you feel after you had a baby. Sometimes you can feel just out of sorts.
Right.
And what the closing of the bones also does is kind of transition you into, this new journey. I remember leaving the hospital and I looked at, my husband, I was like, man, they just gonna let us take this baby home. It ain't
y'all sure?
It ain't nothing to this. You just walk up out of here with this baby. Ain't nobody checked to see if I had no classes. Nothing, to drive a car, you got
no, they just give you the child.
The baby, they just be like, well, you brought it here, you gotta take it back.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I thought that was the ritual piece really helped me let go of ego.
Right.
And I think a part of that is feeling like, the terms that we use in birth, natural birth and all of those terms, make you feel like sometimes as a birth worker, if that's not what happens, then did I do enough? Did I fail, my birth person? So yeah, that's real. I love that part about ego. Wait, let me look at my other questions. See, this is what happens on. That's why we have Nikisha, because she always pulls us. She's always pulls us back together. So my last question is, how do you see? I have two more questions. So, how do you see? So our theme is Black Mamas Matter, reclaiming resilience, power, and liberation. So how do you see us in this birth movement as Black birth workers? How do you see us helping Black mamas reclaim that power? Those who have given birth, those who are about to give birth, how do we help them claim that power? The healing power after they've given birth, and if they're pregnant right now or in the process, how do we help them claim power during the journey?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that for many of us, we are, as birth workers, we're tapping back into that ancestral piece of it, right? So all the things that are in our DNA that are already a part of us that we've either lost or been disconnected from. So I think being able to bring that back to the forefront and as an option for our families.
Yeah.
That shifts what they've been told in the media and from so-and-so and this person. We're telling them, no, this is the beginning. This is where it started. This is what you already have. You already have access to all of this. It's in you. We just have to figure out which parts of it you want to use, right? And again, that takes us back as birth workers of just being a bridge and just allowing people to be open and see and navigate all the options that they have, but to know that no matter what, they already have the power, right? It's a part of them. It's just a reminder. We're a constant reminder of trust yourself.
I love that. We had Dr. Saida Pepper on last year, and she said to us that when she went into labor, she wasn't anxious. She wasn't nervous because her doula had done so much work with her that she felt so prepared that even if her doula was running late, I think traffic or something had happened, and so her doula was running late, that even if her doula wasn't able to make it, she felt enough power within herself to do it, to do the birth. You know, I mean, traditionally and indigenously, we're supposed to birth as communities. True. I also believe that if we've done our jobs well, now listen, I'm not advocating not showing up for births. Show up for the birth people.
Be there.
Be there. I'm not advocating that. But what I am saying is that's another way we can release ego as well, is that trust that if I've done my job well, then the birth person may not even need me.
Right.
And that's okay, because that means that I've helped them discover enough power within themselves to do that. So that is true. Like the power is, within within the people.
I remember one of my early births I attended, and it was like maybe a couple months into like being a fresh birth worker. Thinking you gotta, the bag is full of all the
fresh out of training. When you fresh out of training, man, you giving them tips they don't even need.
Right. Like I'm
not having a home birth, but just in case you have to have the baby at home,
right?
Why don't you go ahead and buy the tub? But I'm just,
I was fresh out.
Yeah, fresh out.
And I got to this birth with a family. And I remember she was, working well, and she asked for a tennis ball. So I gave her the tennis ball. And all I did for the rest of the birth was just remind her to breathe. I stood in the corner. She didn't want to be touched. She didn't want, she just was squeezing the tennis ball whenever she had a contraction. And I would just be like, make sure you're breathing, checking the monitors. Other than that, I did nothing. And I remember leaving that birth and being like, I didn't do anything. Did I do my job? Are they happy? Like, what just happened? And later when we were processing her birth, she was like, you supported me exactly the way I needed to be supported. I knew that if I needed something, you were there. You made me stay in tune with my body, and that was it. And I did nothing other than stand in the corner and just be a witness, like you said. And that was a good lesson for me of like you said, if I've done my job, that's all I need. That's what it should be. That's what it should be. So I unpacked my newly packed bag with all the gadgets. And had to go back and be like, girl, start over.
You got all your moves. When you're fresh out, it's like, I can't wait to redo this move, and I can get down and massage. Right. When you get there, and the person's like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Well, don't.
Stay over there.
No. Yeah, but if you've done your job, it doesn't have to be, it is dramatic just because a new life is entering the world.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be chaotic in the way that we think of chaos, and drama. My sister's question was, what did the tennis ball look like after birth?
It was a little deflated.
It was a little deflated.
It did its job too. Okay.
So we are huge manifestors on Dem Black Mamas podcast. And one of the questions that we always like to ask is about the future. So 10 years from now, what are you hoping manifest from your work and from your podcast?
Man,
I know.
I love that. Danielle and I have big hopes and dreams for this community. And one of those being that these stories also live outside of this podcasting world. That they are tangible for people's hands and eyes, and that they are something that can be carried wherever it needs to be carried, that it has a long-standing home, not just here, that it's owned by us, it's for the whole community, and that, you know, more stories continue to pour in, that we are able to that at that 10 years from now, we have covered all or almost all, because birth is always different. Birth is always going to do what birth is going to do, but that there is a story for anybody and everyone who needs it, no matter what, that everybody's journey has somewhat been touched in some way.
Everybody's journey has a reference point.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think of your podcast, listening to it, I think of your podcast as there's a midwife named Maud Cullen, who was a midwife here in South Carolina. And Life magazine did a picture essay on her. And I was doing research for our installation in Houston in 2019. And I was doing, my room was like the archive room. And so I went to our library and was looking for information about midwives, because at one point, I don't know, there were like hundreds of midwives. Right. And I was stunned to find her. I'd never heard of her. She's right here in my state, got our state's highest honor, the Palmetto Award.
Wow.
She was not only a midwife, but she was a midwife, but back then midwives cared for people outside and beyond birth, right? She had a clinic here, and I had never, ever heard of her. And so I think of your podcast as that kind of archive. Like someday somebody's going to go search and they're going to use it, you know, they're going to use it in some sort of artistic way to show, you know, the history and our Indigenous work. So
it's a dream. That would be
it's a great, you know, it's a great, we could, them Black mamas could stand to, you know, learn a couple of things in terms of putting ourselves on mute when folks we could learn of you. I'm saying, April, that we often go down rabbit holes on them Black mamas podcast, and their podcast doesn't seem to do that. So I'm just saying. It's just smart. Okay, so tell everyone where they can find you when you release episodes, and what episodes you have coming up next, if you have events going on for Black Maternal Health Week.
Yes. So you can find us on our website at birthstoriesincolor.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. You can hear the podcast on almost all of the different podcasting platforms. We release episodes every Thursday, and then we sometimes have special episodes which get released the Tuesday of that week. Like I said, at the end of this month, we are coming up on our 100th episode. So we do have some exciting things planned for that. And then this month, or this week for Black Maternal Health Week, we have a special episode coming out tomorrow. That is, I mean, I know I'm biased because, you know, we did the editing, but I think it's fire. And it's really going to be a true episode to support those who are in prep for their birth, right? And then we have a special guest for our episode on Thursday, hint, hint, a reference to Birthing Justice, the book Birthing Justice. So yeah, that's some of the things that we have coming up.
So tune in, everyone. Birth Stories in Color podcast on Instagram and on Facebook, and you can visit their website as well. I just have one question. Tell me about the picture behind you.
Yes. So that is a picture done by a friend. Asia Span. She drew that. That is my daughter and I. I can't remember how old she was in that picture, but it's a recreation of a photo that we took of her and I in our head wraps. So it's one of my favorites.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time for joining us for our first YouTube Live series. Thank you. We'll try to have you all on again. I mean, we can't predict it, but maybe Danielle will be able to join us. We'll have you all on again as well. So thank you to everyone who tuned in. We have, let me see. Hold on. Let me just check my Facebook page to see if there are any questions on my page. Let me see here. I'm just checking to see if you all have any questions or comments on my page. No, just love. Just a lot of love.
We receive the love.
So tune in tomorrow for our YouTube Facebook Live series, where we'll be talking about Thea Monier's new book, Blood and Baharake. And the title of that is Poetry. Yes, thank you for the snaps, my sister. Thank you for the Thank you for that. Thea, she loves you. Thea, she loves you. So tune in tomorrow, and the title of that live is Poetry, Lineage, and Black Maternal Health. And that will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So it's a different time tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. So thank you. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And if you have any questions, if you're watching the replay of this, you can also drop your questions in the comments, and I'll get them. If they're specifically for Laurel, then I'll make sure that I tag her and get them to her for her to answer. So have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much, Laurel.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.